Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday, where Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX from Battle Styles takes on Weezing from EX Deoxys. Today's game is from round 3 of the January 2024 in real life Eternal format tournament that took place at Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch here in San Antonio, Texas. If you're new here, you might be wondering what the heck even is the Eternal format. In short, it is the unlimited format with a ban list. So this means the format features cards from the original base set all the way through to the most recent tournament legal set. Although it's an unofficial format, it's an incredibly fun format with a lot of rich deck building and gameplay experience to be had. If you're interested in learning more about the Eternal format, you can do so at justinbasil.com/eternal. Up first, we're going to take a quick look at Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, which is at this point a known quantity in the Eternal format. Basically, it is making use of Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX's Gmax Rapid Flow attack to spam and absolutely demolish your opponent's board. Now, if they are wise and running some form of bench barrier Pokemon like Mr. Mime or Mew or Manaphy, you can deal with that with a combination of Alolan Muck from Sun and Moon's Power of Alchemy, which shuts off the abilities of all basic Pokemon, and Lost City, which will cause that Pokemon to say farewell and head to the Lost Zone when it is knocked out. So you can basically shut off the bench barrier and then nuke it with Gmax Rapid Flow so that it can't come back. Urshifu is taking advantage of Melanie to help it attach a water energy from the discard pile to that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX so that a simple attachment from hand of Rapid Strike energy to make it fully powered up and ready to attack with Gmax Rapid Flow, which does 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. That may not seem like a lot of damage, but it does add up very quickly, and in combination with something like Technical Machine Devolution can be utterly terrifying. And it's also made all the more terrifying by the fact that in the Eternal format, a lot of your supporting Pokemon, like Claydol and Lapras, they're pretty squishy. They've got 120 HP or less, which means they go down very quickly to Gmax Rapid Flow. Anyway, that is Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Our next deck is Weezing from EX Deoxys with the liability attack that puts your opponent's active Pokemon just 10 health in exchange for putting just enough damage on Weezing to knock it out. Fun fact though, more than likely you're going to be hitting your opponent's active Pokemon with some form of poison either via Ariados, Skuntank, or Hypnotoxic Laser. So that little chip of poison damage at the end is going to finish off whatever Pokemon is in that active spot once liability has taken effect, so you'll be taking your prize cards quite quickly. You have access to energies like Recycle Energy that bounces back to your hand when your Pokemon has been knocked out, and Rescue Energy that allows your Pokemon, the whole evolution line, to go back to your hand when it's knocked out. So you have quite a few little tools and lots of bits of consistency from cards like Artisan and Turffield Stadium to help you find your Coughings and your Weezings. All in all, this deck is fairly straightforward, and especially when it's headed up against 2 prize or 3 prize decks, it tends to be fairly favored in the price trade. That's Weezing, fairly straightforward, but also fairly potent and consistent deck in the right player's hands. Now that we've seen Weezing and we've seen Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, let's watch today's game. Okay, our players are getting set up here. We have the Weezing player on the left and the Urshifu player on the right. Got a Lapras start for the Urshifu player, not ideal, but we do have a Spinarak and a Ditto for our Weezing player. Gonna make a decision about whether or not to attach an energy, it looks like. Choosing to attach Rescue Energy to that active Spinarak, just kind of keep it available. Attaching Protection Cube to Ditto, interesting choice, and passing. So our Urshifu player is now going to start their turn. They've drawn. They just need to make a play here. Playing Earthen Vessel, interesting. They're going to discard Lost City. Getting rid of Lost City fairly early on here. Kind of a interesting choice. Getting a Water Energy and a Fighting Energy out and ready. To imagine they're probably going to quick ball that water energy to ensure that they can Melanie here. Discarding a Turo scenario and a water energy with that computer search. Maybe getting the Melanie there. Going for Green's Exploration. Probably wise. They didn't bother to get the Urshifu off of the quick ball just yet. And I don't know if they want to keep discarding cards from their hand. So getting Battle VIP Pass, that is a good choice this turn. They're not really in a pressured situation to be building up their board anyway, so, or at least not energy wise. So they're going Battle VIP Pass, probably going to get Urshifu and another Urshifu? No. Baltoy. They also could go for Grimer to get it ready to evolve up into a Muk, but I do think that Baltoy is a good choice. Their setup has been hampered a bit because they've started Lapras, so getting to draw cards off of Claydol will be huge. Looks like they're having difficulty deciding what to get off of this Luxury Ball. Getting a Zelf, choosing to grab a Zelf so they can fish a Pokemon out of the prize cards. or just to look at the prize cards in general, it looks like. Choosing to put the quick ball into their prize cards. It is just a little difficult to see what it is they're getting out of those prize cards. They are putting them back down after having put the quick ball in the prize cards, choosing to put them down in an order specific, since this elf doesn't require you to put them back in the same order. It appears that Grimer was the Pokemon pulled out of the prize cards, getting ready for causing havoc as a Alolan Muk, which will shut off a basics abilities. So if there's like a Mr. Mime, that ability goes down and becomes susceptible to G-Max Rapid Flow. We do see Skuntank G pop into play. Very nice. Going to be helpful for finishing off the opponent's Pokemon. A double level ball is quite nice. Gonna go get the Weezing, I think, probably to evolve up that Ditto Prism Star. I think that would be the best choice at this point, just to make sure that you can attack. You do have an energy on the active Spinarak, and with that, you'll be able to retreat out of it. So as long as you can find another energy to attach to the Weezing, you can at least start hitting into your opponent. The big disadvantage that Weezing has is if you aren't taking on big Pokemon when you're doing your knockouts, you're kind of having a rough go. This is a nice choice. I like this. Okay, so they've gone with a Lapras. They're probably going to get a Guzma. If they get a Guzma, they can switch in the Urshifu and knock that out, which would be pretty good. But it looks like they're maybe going for setup instead. I have to imagine they just don't have access to the energy at the moment. Very unfortunate. I feel like perhaps come Temporal Forces, maybe this is a deck that wants to run Prime Catcher, just so that it can make that kind of play. So we do see the retreat on the Spinarak. I can't say that I'm sure why that Rescue Energy was not discarded for retreat. The Spinarak does have a retreat cost of 1. All right, we see a Nest Ball and a Level Ball. Searching through the deck, we find a Spinarak, evolve that Ariados with the illegal energy, and bench a Bench Barrier in the hopes that it will help save them against Rapid Strike Urshifu. Artisan helps find that last Coughing, getting it ready. With this deck, you really want to always be building your bench, building your board, making sure you have the Pokemon to chain these Weezings, because if you skip one, if you miss a Weezing attack, if you miss a liability, you're liable, if you will, to lose the game because you just can't keep up pace. And this is especially true against 2 Prizer decks. Against 3 Prizer decks, you have a better shot, but against 2 Prizer decks, they can really wreak havoc on you. Touching a Protection Cube to that benched Coughing, and they're just going to take a knockout on that Lapras. Getting a prize card, but it does feel kind of eh. It would have been much better if they'd been able to find an energy in a different way. Unfortunately, not the case. All right. Urshifu, the Rapid Strike Urshifu V is now in the active spot. We do see a Versus Seeker going to go in once again for a Green's Exploration. Green's Exploration, again, gets you 2 trainer cards from your deck and just lets you put them into your hand. See Forest Sealstone and an Evolution Incense, it looks like. We see the Evolution Incense that was taken last turn being used, and the one from this turn. So we see Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and a Alolan Muk. That's that Power of Alchemy again. And the Forest Sealstone this time going in to grab, of course, going in to grab the Rapid Strike energy here. The only big disadvantage is not having access to Lost City. At the very least, though, Power of Alchemy is going to make it so that the Mr. Mime isn't very effective anyway. However, because there is no Lost City to take that Mime out, the Weezing player could, if they really wanted to, and it's probably not to their advantage because of the price trade, but if they really wanted to, they could go after the Muk and just shut it down that way. Weezing player here contemplating using Teammates. They don't quite have a board set up. They need another Weezing. They could use Artisan. It looks like they've used something. I believe that was the Artisan to search their deck. Contemplating a Guzma play, but you don't have... Okay, they're going to boss stall. Or Guzma stall in this case. Making a choice there. Putting the Coughing in the active spot. I'm choosing to just poison the Alolan Muck and pass. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. That is rough. So unfortunately, just they're poisoning the active on the Muck there, and then passing. I do see a Melanie come down on the Urshifu, getting that water energy on there, so all they'll need is a Rapid Strike energy from hand and some way to switch here. Unfortunately, because they played Melanie, Guzma is no longer an option to switch. We finally get to see that Baltoy evolve up into a Claydol with Cosmic Power, putting a great deal of draw power on board here for the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX player. Unfortunately, the Weezing player has not had quite the same luck with draw power on their side this game. They've been kind of struggling a little bit with setup. Unfortunate. And they're just going in straight away with the Claydol, saying, you know what, I really need to draw some cards. So we're going to draw some cards. So Claydol, if you're not familiar, lets you put up to 2 cards from your hand onto the bottom of your deck, and then you draw 6 until you have 6 cards in hand. So it's like a supercharged version of Bibarel in our current standard format. Very, very strong effect. I do see a Rapid Strike energy in the hand there, but I don't see a way to switch. It looks like that Guzma stall is going to work there. Very, very lucky, very fortunate for the Weezing player here. We do see Artisan being used to get another Coughing down. Coughing getting it ready for that next turn. Just hoping that they can survive this one. No real choice, though, in terms of anything else to do, so they're just going to have to pass. Poison damage slowly ticking away on that Muck. We see a second Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX come down. At this point, the board state for Urshifu is pretty terrifying. If they can get that Muck out of the active, they are going to be absolutely causing devastation for their opponent. We do see a Versus Seeker and a Turo Scenario. So Professor Turo Scenario is going to scoop up the Muck, getting it out of play. Going to play the Grimer back down and put the Rapid Strike energy on the active there to just take out the active Coughing. So it's now confused and poisoned because of the Poke Power, or Poke Body rather, on that Coughing, which is pretty hilarious actually. We do see another top deck Weezing, which is broken, and a teammate's being used this turn wisely, getting that recycle energy, getting another card. Hopefully they're getting a good card. Recycle energy definitely the play here. Getting that out will make it so they can attack with that Weezing and easily KO that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX for 3 prize cards. That'll put them down to just 2 because they took 1 at the beginning of the game with the Lapras. So they've settled on 2 cards here. Yeah, 2 cards. Teammates going to the discard pot, and the deck getting shuffled up. So we're gonna see some quick play here once that deck is shuffled. I have to imagine we'll see the attachment of that recycle energy any moment now. Looks like a recycle energy and a Versus Seeker. Versus Seeker a good call when the next Weezing gets knocked out. They can Versus Seeker for another teammates. And there goes Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and 3 prize cards. I did just see a Weezing come out of the prize cards for the Weezing player, which makes me suspect that their prizing was really bad this game. Weezing is not something you want to see in those prize cards as this deck. We do see another Rapid Strike energy come down on the Urshifu. And Muck has gone down immediately. They were not able to disrupt the Muck hand after that Turo Scenario last turn. So unfortunately, Power of Alchemy is once again live, which means that we're going to get a double KO on these Weezings. And there is, once again, no longer a Coughing in play to evolve up into a Weezing, which is going to make it not possible to get an attack off this turn. And the Urshifu player only needs 1 prize card left, whereas the Weezing player still needs 2. They can play down a Weezing, or Coughing rather. They have, looks like they have a Weezing in hand from the prize card still. They have the energy too. They have literally everything they need except that Weezing, or except the Coughing that can evolve into a Weezing. Unfortunately, their bench is just too full to put down a 3rd Coughing to avoid the issue with the Urshifu knocking 2 of them out. So it's gonna just be a Poison and a Guzma stall and pray. And here we see an attachment to the Urshifu and Guzma straight into the Lapras to knock it out with the first attack. Gale Thrust for game. So that was Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX versus Weezing. Interesting game. Weezing didn't quite set up as readily and stably as it would want to at that pricing of at least the Weezing. At least the one Weezing made it a little bit rougher than it perhaps should have been. I think overall, actually, Weezing is pretty favored in this matchup, so it was a little bit of an unfortunate showing for Weezing here. But it does show how close this game still got, even with Weezing on a back foot, right? Weezing, despite having that pricing, despite missing a couple of attacks, still really was threatening game against Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX for quite a while. So fun to watch, fun to see. Weezing, of course, always a fun deck to see in the Eternal format when you're going against 3-prizers. And Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is one of the only viable 3-prizers in Eternal format. So it's very fun to see it too. But that is all for today's game. I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you happen to find yourself in the San Antonio area on March 16th, you can join us for our next in real life Eternal format tournament. Deck validation and registration begins at 11, with round 1 to begin approximately at noon. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.